Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting lesson for music theory. Today, we're going to be doing 8.1, which is talking about intervals. So an interval is the distance between two pitches on the staff or just when we hear it. So it is expressed by a number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is mostly what we'll deal with. They can get into 9, 10, 11, but that's in book 2 of music theory. So we won't worry about that just yet. So for now, we're just going to worry about 1 through 8. Okay. Examples of intervals are seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, and figuring out an interval is quite simple. So today is going to be a pretty quick lesson. You're going to count in order to figure out what interval we have, you're going to count the number of lines and spaces in between two notes, and you're going to include the two notes that you're working on. So you're going to start with one on your lowest note, and then you're going to count all the way up to your top note. And once you do that, the resulting number is your interval, okay? So if we look here, we have examples. So if we have a note that is right next to each other, so from going one line to a space right here, so I'm going to count this as 1 and this as 2, that's going to be a second. Now, if we skip a note in between, this is 1, 2, 3, so that's a third. If this is 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to be a fourth. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to be a fifth. Continuing on to our sixth, you guessed it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then once we get to eighth, we actually have a special word for that hopefully is familiar to you if you've been paying attention in choir. That is the word octave. So if you think of octagon, like a stop sign that has 8 sides, an octave is an interval that is 8 notes apart. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if we're thinking of our treble clef note names, this is E, right? Every good boy does fine. And if we go F, A, C, E, that note is also E. So an octave is the difference between one of the same letter name, right? So you can have an octave up or an octave down, but we're going to go all the way from one of the letters in the alphabet all the way E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, all the way to the next E. So the difference between this and this is an octave. The difference between one F to the next F is also an octave, etc. Okay. So again, the key things that you have to remember whenever you're doing intervals is you have to count the notes that you're using, okay, or the notes that it starts on and the note that it finishes on. So you always count your first note, which is your lowest note, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a fifth. Now, a couple tricks that you'll see. If you go from a line to a line or a space to a space, you have 3 different options of what that can be. So if it's a line to a line like this, or a space to a space, and they are just 2 notes apart, right? 1, 2, 3. That is going to be your third. So if it stacks nicely like that, that's a third. If you go from a line to a line or a space to a space, but you skip a line or space in between, this one right here, that's going to be a fifth. And then the next one, if you stack it like this to where it's kind of like a snowman like that, really the fifth is a snowman, like this. Oops, wrong one. You stack it like that, that's 1, that's the 3, that's the 5. If we stack another one on top, so we have our fourth, that's going to be a 7th, okay? So if it stacks nicely like that, that's going to be a 1, which would be a unison, a third, a fifth, or a 7th, okay? Now, if it goes from a line to a line, or a line to a space, or a space to a line, so it doesn't stack nicely like that, you have a couple different options. It can be your second, like we have right here, since they're right next to each other. You can have a second, you can have a fourth, or you can have a sixth, or the octave, like we've talked about. So there's a quick little way there for you to know whether or not it's going to be, you can rule out some of the options. So if it stacks nicely like a snowman on either all lines or all spaces, it's either going to be a third, a fifth, or a seventh. If it is from a line to a space or a space to the line, it's going to be one of our other options, okay? But the easiest way is still going to be probably to count it, but that's just a handy way to check your work. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a fourth. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's a seventh. Here we have 1, 2, 3, that's our third. Again, those stack nicely on top of each other like a part of a snowman. Now this one is a big interval, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's our octave. And then this one is going to be aligned to a space. So we know it's not going to be a 1, 3, 5, or 7. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a sixth. And then this is going to be a third because it's a space to, or a line to a line. Now, this next exercise we're going to have you do on your own. This is telling you to add the upper note to form each interval. So if this is 1, we need to make a second. So that's going to be the note right next door. If we need a fifth, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be the space. With fifth, we already know is a space to a space or a space to, or a line to a line. So that's all set. A seventh, we know is going to be space to space. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7. So that is our space right there, stem down because it's above the third line. Then we need a sixth above that note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to get above the staff, 5 and 6 there. So there is our sixth. Go ahead and complete the rest of the page on your own. You'll notice that also whenever we have a second, it says that that is the same as a step. So if we're kind of stair stepping, like we've talked about in whenever we're sight reading, a second is the same as a step. In the future, we'll get more specific. There are different types of intervals within, there are different types of seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, and all of the intervals. But for right now, we just want you to be able to count and tell us that that is a unison, which is the same note, a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or octave. We're only going to deal within octave. We won't get any bigger than that for now. Okay. If you have any questions, bring them tomorrow. If not, we will get more practice in class tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.